on the bars is number one in the world and whatever. Then we get to chapter 18, and the Baal Tanya says, I still have a problem with this, with that pasuk. That pasuk is bothering me. It says, it's very easy for us to serve Hashem. Now, Korov doesn't mean easy actually. Korov means it's close. It's within our reach. Okay, our brain is within us. We can think about things, so that's within our reach. But to say Korov Moed is very, very close, it's not so very close. Not people, especially nowadays, how many people are sitting with the spine and Godless Hashem, in the Bria, very few people are doing that. It seems to be a hard way, not a simple way. Got to be another way. And then the Tanya lays out a much shorter way, a short version, a quick way. You don't have to create anything. You don't have to create the Ahava. You don't have to develop it, which is really the ideal system, the long way. You just have to tap into what you're already born with. It's like you have an English adrenaline. Just like the body has a certain chemical that remains dormant your whole life. You only need it in certain situations where you need extra koichus. I think we use 15%, I forgot what the number was. A small percentage of our power is utilized on a regular basis, but our body reserves the bulk of its koyach that you need it in an emergency situation. You gotta lift up someone from a car. You got crazy things that a person can do, and this is where the adrenaline kicks into the body and pulls out those koyachs. There's a spiritual system as well, where we have dormant inside of our neshama, we have this certain midas, the closest to Hashem, Ahavas Hashem, and this doesn't get tapped unless you think about it. You think about that it's there, and certain things automatically pull it out. And we're going to learn, and those program, the Baal Tanya tells us, listen, you don't have to create. You have inside of you the spiritual adrenaline, the spiritual ahava and yira that come from Anoich Elohilecha, that we heard from Hashem, that's ingrained in your neshama. And the Pine said that's a short way. Why? Because all you have to do is just think about that. You have two things what you could do. Mitzvah say, mitzvah lo say. Mitzvah say have to do Anoich Hashem Lakecha, and we believe there's nothing else but Hashem. Not that there's another God, we want or not others. No, there's nothing else in the world that does anything without Hashem's involvement. And number two, that our various cut ourselves off from Hashem, like a word of Zorah. And then the Baal Tanya explained that just like every Jew naturally will be prepared to give up his life, not to sever his connection with Hashem. So really, that should be by all affairs. There's no difference between touching muksa or bowing down to an avodah zarah. They both cause the exact same severance of connection to Hashem. And therefore, if a person is ready to give his life up, not to bow down to avodah zarah, he should be ready to give his life up, or do everything possible, not to be over even a small avera. Now you're going to jump and say, "What are you talking about? The avodah zarah is the Yarek Vayava, the muksa is the Rabbanan. What do you mean the severing our connection with Hashem? We do a small avera. Everyone is inside everybody has an averas. But at the time in the avera, it doesn't matter what kind of avera it is. The rice and Rabbanan, even not following a minhag, avera means going away. Over, you're going on another path. You're leaving Hashem. It makes a difference you're leaving Hashem when you're bowing down to avodah zarah, or you're not listening to, you're not answering the amen when you heard it because you're talking to your friend. That's also an avera, and the same disconnect happens. The only difference is that if it's a Rabbanan or Raisa, but it's not say, then you could get right after you sever yourself. It's not a permanent severance. You get right back to it after. You just have to do tshuva to clear the stain, but you get reconnected afterwards.
The mechanics are the same.
At the actual time, it's the same, and but afterwards, it's the difference between avodah zarah is you remain disconnected. But then Tanya says, really, that's also not really true. Avodah zarah is also for the moment. If your person sees someone put a gun to his head and he has to be over avodah zarah, and he doesn't believe it, he's not interested, just wants to save his life, and knows that a minute later I'm going to do tshuva on it, then he's going to be reconnected a minute later anyway. But nonetheless, a person will not give, most people will not give up their life to break their connection to Hashem, even for 1 minute. And we see that by the Zohar, we see that in the last 2,000 years, where unfortunately millions of people will get ready to give up their lives not to be able to, not to cut off their connection for 1 minute. So why is it that by the Zohar, we have to give up our life? That's exactly because the Baal Tanya says, something we don't understand. For whatever reason it is, Hashem chose these three Averas, even though the connection is only temporary, the disconnect is only temporary. Nevertheless, since even for that temporary 1 minute, you have to give up your life. All the other mitzvahs and Averas, don't give up your life. Do the Avera and you'll do tshuva afterwards, you'll fix it afterwards. There's only temporary disconnect. So the Baal Tanya says that, so when anybody gets focuses on if anybody is challenged or being lured into doing something keneged the Ratzon Hashem, doing something which is not a mitzvah, to do an Avera, all he has to think about, 1 second, when I do this Avera, it's a small Avera, I'm going to eat something which is not 100% kosher, whatever the Avera is, and you can think about that, listen, I'm still good with Hashem, we're good, He knows, He understands me, we're still good, I'm still a Jew, I'm still connected, but really there's no difference between that and Avodah Zarah at that moment. Because at that moment, he's violating what the Melech Malach told him. Whether he told him in the Torah, or told him through the Rabbanim, which also have a din of Doraisa, all the mitzvahs Rabbanan, small, we start to listen to everything that the rabbis tell us, because it also comes from the Koyach of the Torah. And so really, a person, if he thinks about it, okay, before I'm about to do this, I was ready to give up my life if this was Avodah Zarah, not to disconnect for 1 minute. I don't want to be disconnected 1 minute from my lifeline, from Hashem. So by doing this particular act, I'm going to do revenge on somebody. He did something to me, I'm going to get back at him. That's also an Avera, and it's the same disconnect. It doesn't matter if afterwards you can do tshuva. Now there's a din that says the effect of Asher, if a person does an Avera, and then he says, I'll do an Avera, but I'll do tshuva afterwards, then ain't my speaking. So see this parak will explain how that works. Bottom line is, the fact that people do Averas, and they don't tap into this, they don't think about this, is for a very simple reason. It's called the plea of insanity, the Rosh Tus. We get up to Shemayim, we're going to have Hashem. What's that?
Isn't that they say if everything is Ruach Shtus Nichtas going, no?
If what?
If everything is Ruach Shtus, only because Ruach Shtus Nichtas going.
Yes. A person can't do Avera without this Rosh Tus, without this insanity. This really is insane. If I'm ready to give up my life, not to be under Avodah Zarah, or go through all these surin, all the suffering that goes with it, I'm ready to suffer, not to give up my religion for Avodah Zarah. So why can I suffer? Okay, I won't have this taivo. I won't get back at this guy. I'll hold myself back. It's much easier than giving up one's life. There's nothing more important than life. People, no matter who, will give up everything for life, to extend the day of life. Life is priceless. No money will buy an extra minute of life. So life is the most chashuv thing. And yet we're ready to be mafkir life, not to be disconnected 1 minute from Hashem and Avodah Zarah. It's only this ruach shtus, this foolishness, this insanity that goes into our head that says, don't worry, I'm not really disconnected, only for a minute, afterwards I'll do tshuva. This is all foolishness. So the Baal Tanya tells us, if you think about it, it's a very easy way to stop from doing any Averas, and also motivate a person not to do mitzvahs, not to be lazy, which we'll see in the next program afterwards how that works. Now, that's the ruach shtus. The person to think that he's still connected even though he doesn't have Avera. I heard a joke. A lady once came to a Rav and she said that her son went crazy. He's eating chazer and he's dancing with shiksas. So the Rav told her, "Your son is not crazy. He's very normal. If he was eating shiksas and dancing with the chaza, he'd be crazy." But he's doing things what naturally people do. That's the real shtus that's in the world. So, but we have to recognize that, and therefore it's very simple to just think about it and then remove that and be able to reconnect with Hashem. That's a short way. As I mentioned, there is a mila. If we have a short way and a long way, why in the world do we want to have the long way? By the way, the long way and the short way, I'll tie it in, has to do with Lag Baimer. Had to Moshe Rabbeinu and Rashbi. Moshe Rabbeinu represented, and actually the Tanya. Moshe Rabbeinu represented the Seichel. He's Rabbeinu, he taught us the Torah. Torah is intellect, knowledge, Chabad. Rashbi was the Rebbe Pnimis Torah. That's the lave, the heart. If you notice, Moshe Rabbeinu comes to him in the Mayim Mishisu. He has to do with water, Mayim. Because Mayim is Chochmah is Mayim. It flows from above down. So too, Moshe Gibur Torah Sirmas or the Shush Games Galavim. It flows down. Torah is Nimshal Lamayim. That's the mind. The heart is the opposite. It's Eish, fire, which goes up. It's the regation, your feelings. Moshe Rabbeinu represented the Seichel, the Moyach, and the Rashbi represented the Lev. So therefore we see that the end of the Torah ends with a Lamed, begins with a Beis, Lamed Beis, Lev. So it's the end of Golus. We'll need to come on to tap into the Lev. Throughout the years, throughout these 6,000 years or 2,000 years of Torah, and then even before that they learned Torah, the Avos HaKadoshim, Avram Avinu, Zoson Desire, he got saved with Zebuzil HaMelech, he gave it over to Shusela, to Noach, they all were learning. And, but that was Chochmah, Seichel. Then the Golus, the Hashem preserved and hid away, Mishmeres, like the Jar of Man, Pnimis Torah, to be tapped into at the Surf Golus when we no longer have the Kaichas, but we need that extra adrenaline. That adrenaline is the shortcut way, and that's the shortcut system we have now at the end of Golus. That's why we celebrate Lag Baimer with bonfires. The whole idea of the fires, it's a quick, short fix. But why? What's wrong with that? Why do you have to have a long way altogether? Why do we have to sit and be misbinding? And there's a lot to be misbinding on. It's unbelievable. I'm making the depth of the Sifrei Chasidus, the Torah Baal Shem, and things which you would never believe. Okay, it takes me 2 minutes to learn Gemara Baal Shem, and everything finished, and go on to the next topic. But there's so much oimek to go into it. I can't even describe it. But that's a hard and long way. But that's the difference is the long way is a transformation. Remember, we said that who are we? Who is in control of us? Our Nefesh Kids or Nefesh Bahamas? Our job is to take our brain and our heart and our body and convert it. Tihi Tzadik V'al Tihi. That was our mission statement from the beginning, time we come into this world. Hashem wants to transform ourselves. We're not created tzaddik. Tzaddik Rosh Lo Yikam. We're not created tzaddikim. We created neutral guys, and we have to do something to transform. Transform, the quick fix won't do it. The adrenaline won't do it. Adrenaline is very good for temporarily, for you're stuck in a jam, you need an extra fire, bang, you got your adrenaline, but it goes away a few minutes later, you can be challenged again, not going to last. The long-lasting thing, the long way is long-lasting. Short way is the short-lasting. The long way is transformation. Transformation which changes a person, and he can eventually become a tzaddik, even in a certain aspect of his life being tzaddik, which means his challenges no longer are as challenging. As you understand, a person who constantly refines himself and works on himself eventually will not be challenged by the silliness that other people have. We get easier and easier as a Avodah Hashem, and then he can focus more because he's growing higher. So that's the advantage of the long way. But nevertheless, the Pasuk in Torah is telling us, don't worry. There are people that are, even if you're not up to that, that should be a long-term goal. But for right now, you got a situation, and you're being challenged by a mitzvah or an avera. You're lazy. You not want to get up for davening. You want to do this or that, or you're challenged to do whatever an avera. Here's a shortcut way. This way, it's not changing you. You're the same Yetzer Hara the next minute as before. It's just going to temper it. It's like to pull the air out of the room for a minute, and you go. That's where we got to this point. Perek Chafei now, and then after Perek Chafei, we're going to look, which I think is tremendous. The next few program, the next 10 program afterwards, going to explain all the different things that hold us back from accessing the simple way. If it's so simple, how come we don't go home after tonight with all these eights, simple eights, and that's it, no more averas. We're home free. We'll think about every minute. The adrenaline, goodbye, child. What's holding back? And we'll learn about laziness and sadness, not having simcha, a lot of things which anchor a person down. We have problems with the kid that can't get to school. We have shidduchim, we have panasa, we got to pay the bills, we got our stuff, merchandise in China somewhere. A lot of things that occupy our mind, where the Tanya will then take us to the next practical eitzes, how to deal with all the mishigasim in the world. They shouldn't interfere with us tapping into this simple eitzes. So we begin with Perek Chafei, and so with this, what we said in the last chapter, the shortcut way, we now understand we don't have to create the Ahava. It's really inside of us, just to remind us of that it's there. It reminds us what we would do for it. Now we understand why it says in the Pasuk, which is the whole book, the whole Sefer is based on this. Because really, Shebachol Eis Ubachol Shah, B'Yodeh Shalom B'Shusayhu, Lav Ruach Hashtus, V'Ashikha. Everyone has it within, no matter what time or day. The long way, you have to have a mindset. Sometimes you're tired, sometimes you're weak, sometimes you're vulnerable, you're not focused. And it's not going to work for you then to have sit a long way and sit down and be responding for 3 hours about God and Hashem. Not happening. Maybe there are other times you do that. Yom Kippur by night, or you're in a situation where you have some time. That's a different story. But this shortcut way, that can be tapped into no matter when, whenever. And it's in his hands in Bereshusai. It's in his Reshus. It's within his choosing. Lahav Ruach Shtus, to remove the Ruach Shtus, that's caused us to do Averas, that separate us from Hashem. And also the Shikha, forgetting about our closest to Hashem, that we should do mitzvahs, that we shouldn't be lazy about the mitzvahs as well. That's the second part of it.
How does he even recognize that he's in a state of ruach shtus? I think if he recognized it, he wouldn't get into it.
But
What I mean is to then remove himself from it.
we're naturally in the Rosh Shtus. We have to fight it too. We have to bring out. We're naturally being pulled down by a person. Unless he's a tzaddik, he's going to have this Nevesh Bahamas covering him, and Bahama is a shaita.
Essentially, if you're sleeping, how do you wake yourself up?
Yeah. So
I
you
don't. I need the money alarm clocks.
You need to think. You need to use some sort of thinking, but not thinking to create a lahava. You're thinking that you already have the tools in you. It's much easier. You don't have to use your thoughts to create something. You have to use your thought. You have to. It still requires work, requires effort. It doesn't. You can't learn a class in Tanya. It's okay. Now I'm going home. I don't know. It's all shtus. And this way, no one will bother me, and everything will be perfect. It requires work. It doesn't say it's easy. But it's much simpler in terms of the fact that it's within access. The love that he has for Hashem, and also the love that Hashem has for him. 1 second. Hello? I'm getting a shit. She wanted me to get up. I didn't even go to sleep. Tonight there's no time to go to sleep because you have to wait for the Spirit Timer. So in any case, the idea is that we have to, in Perek Chav, I don't have it here, Mem Vav, where they're holding now. It's a beautiful Perek. It gives you a mashal. It's an unbelievable Perek. Describes, just imagine that you're coming to the Sea Gedola in Europe, with the Chavetz Chaim appears, the Gadol Hadar, and you come in with thousands of people, And Chavetz Chaim gets up, just a marshal really, and he looks, and he points to somebody. It seems like he's pointing to you, and he does that, and everybody's looking who's it, and they realize he's pointing to him, and they say, what did he do wrong? And he comes up, the Chavetz Chaim grabs him and hugs him, and says, I'm so happy to see you. I want you to come to my house. And imagine if this is a melech. I mean, no, God is like a melech. Man, it's melech malchim Malachim who does that to us. He came down to Eretz, to the Arts in Mitzrayim. Hashem b'choyde v'yatzmai loydei malach loydei shliach. He came down to Eretz Haaretz, into lowest world, part of the worlds, to take us out of Mitzrayim, to clean us up, to wash us, to bathe us in the Yam Suf, and to prepare us for the Matan Torah, which we are in this period now. The tremendous ahava that Hashem shows us, the closest, would melt even a person who was a lave of stone, be melted by thinking about the great closest Hashem putting aside all the other worlds. The Malachim said, where's the Shekhinah? Where's the Shekhinah? It's by the Jews. It's down here. Not in Shemayim, not in Shmei Shemayim, not by the Srofim, not by the Kisa Kovid. Hashem wants to hang around with us. Most of Koshruch lies is in us, in every Jew. When you think about that, it's crazy how we should go out of our kelim to do whatever Hashem wants out of the reciprocal love. Like a mirror shows. If I used to tell my kids when they go to school, I think I told you this once, when they were younger, I said, listen, I had these, some of my kids are clowns. And listen, when you go into class in the morning, put on a big smile face and tell me what happens. And she does that. She said, oh, everybody got everybody laughing. You know, you just show somebody Ahava and it automatically reciprocates. But Hashem shows Ahava. So we just think about these things. And by the time we go through each thing, how, till now we're learning about how in Avera we should keep away from an Avera. He didn't really stress the part of how do we get rid of our willingness to do things, go an extra mile to learn more, to do the Daf Yomi, to go to the shul, to go to the shiurim, to do whatever one has to do. That there is other aids, like the one I gave you now, for example, in Daf Pergmevlo. There are many others of how easy it is to want to do what Hashem wants without any hesitation. Imagine if the king tells you need something, you'll go day and night, rain, snow, no matter what to do. There's chus to have to carry out what the message is. That's what it means to remember Hashem's love. That even a Russia has this inside of him. Even a Russia could overcome his Yetzer Hara. His whole life he was a Russian. He used to think about these things. Even the Russians doesn't want to sever his connection with Hashem. No, even the people who are not religious, who never were religious, whose whole life was rebelling against Hashem, they may not want to live like a Jew, but they want to die like a Jew. No one wants to remove that full disconnection.
No, I mean, like that's a radical statement. That's a radical statement about nothing else point of Rosh Hashanah. That like, even though it's like this, like the person, everything he does, he's still like, he has temporary insanity.
Right.
I mean,
so if you have a good lawyer, when you get to Shemai, you get a good lawyer. You bring the Tanya with you, and then listen. My boy say, Bez Shamala, I plead insanity. What can I do?
I was out of sentencing this
Right,
week.
yeah.
The lawyer said it was Rosh Hashanah, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In Shemaim it goes a little differently because they say you may have a Rosh Hashanah, but I invested something in you. I put some of me inside of you. I planted in you Chelik L'Kami Mal. I gave you a thing. The light is there. The bulb is inside there shining, and you covered it up. You don't need much to uncover it. You were lazy. You didn't think for a minute. But I made you human being, not a behemoth. A behemoth doesn't have to think, but he has to think. And so a person has just remember this hava inside of him that is there. V'nichlal ba gam dechilu included as also yira. Shloi yilipori b'shum oifem yichudu v'achdusi yisparach avil b'siyas navish mamash. The fact that we have this closeness and this relationship with Hashem that we don't want to sever, disconnect, that's natural in every Yiddish neshama. it also includes with it a little bit of yira, fear. Not to mean fear for punishment, but fear from breaking that connection with Hashem. We need that to avoid averos. The ahava is needed to push us to do mitzvahs, to overcome our laziness, our sluggishness, our sadness, and the ahava, the yira is to keep away from the things that are the averos. And the choshen b'shvius atayvus. If we tap into this, that's inside of us, this ahava and this yira, then that we were ready to give up our life, which is the most choshev thing in the world, not to challenge it. So certainly, if we have a taiva, to break a taiva, which is much less than Yisurim of Misa, the punishment of Misa. Korvei lecha. There was my wife showed me, I didn't know where, I think Mordechai Hager sent it to me. Somebody spoke this week in the Knesset. You saw that? It was written in Hebrew. One of the women there, she did, it was tremendous Kiddush Hashem. Unbelievable Kiddush Hashem. I wish they would translate it to English. She only spoke for 3 minutes. She addressed the whole Knesset in Israel.
She was a member?
Yes. And I don't know if she's from the Likud. Is that a religious group? I don't know. Likud. And she said she just spoke to a survivor of October 7th who was hiding underneath a car and eventually came out. But that girl had a friend, another girl, who wasn't so lucky. And she was listening to the Yisurim. They took her, they destroyed her, they burnt her, and she gave her life after being burnt. The Yisurim from that. And she cried and said, how could that not rip everybody apart? Everyone is a Jew naturally. How could we handle that? How could we handle how could Hashem do that? How could Hashem let something like that happen? And she said, there's no Jew in the world that didn't have a moment to think about that. How could such a thing be? But then she said, I want to tell you a song which was sung 3,000 years ago that gives the answer. She said that we have a mistake. We have to think of why Hashem and why He's acting towards us. We have to think about what our responsibility to Hashem. And she started saying, "Nishmas Kachai, Tavar Shimcha Hashem Elokeinu." That's how she ended her speech. These psukim, the Nishmas tells us that Hashem, it's He who runs the world. He made the world. He made us, and He loves us, and He gave us the hava. We have to just know what we have to do to make Him happy. That's it. Nothing else matters. Nothing else. No other cheshbonos. It was a tremendous. It was Kiddush Hashem. I don't know what the response was, but it was Oyam V'Nara. Hopefully, someone will put it in English. It'll be massive. A 3-minute speech. But we all have inside of us that tremendous ahava that Hashem, because Hashem cares about us, and therefore, if we're ready to give up our life for that, we're certainly ready to give up a small little taiva that we can have a difficulty overcoming, and because remember that if we give into that avera, we're severing our connection we're ignoring Hashem. We're saying, Hashem, you're not in control. Guess what? I'm here. I'll do what I want, not what you want. It doesn't matter what Hashem wants. At the rise to abundance, He wants us not to touch muksa. And we say, listen, I'm not going to listen to you on this. I want to use my cell phone on Shabbos. Sorry. That's Merida B'Malchus. And at that moment, it's no different than Avodah Zarah. The only answer, as we said, is afterwards if you can, if you get back to it. He said, "Gam b'avodah zarah yachal לעשות tshuva achkach." As the Tanya says over here, avodah zarah also could do tshuva. It's also temporarily, doesn't remain permanent. If you don't do tshuva, it will be permanent. The Gemara says, and you can't do an avera relying on the fact that you're going to do tshuva afterwards. The Gemara says, if someone says, I'm going to sin, then I'll do tshuva. I say, I'm going to do this avera, but don't worry, I'll do tshuva afterwards. Then it doesn't mean that Hashem won't let us do tshuva. He won't give us the opportunities, the help that we need. But if we want to do tshuva, nothing stands before tshuva. We very often need siyata d'shmaya, help, to help us do tshuva. So
It says it's an opportunity. Is this by putting the person in the same situation they're in, so they can have tshuva?
well, this Echtav Ashuv means when the person is doing the Avera only because he's relying on the Tshuva afterwards. And as a person, I'm going to do this Avera because I know I can do Tshuva right afterwards, so it causes him to do the
So
Avera.
what is it he end up doing? He ends up not having the opportunity to.
But he can do it. He's not given the help from Shemai, but if he pushes it, he can, no matter what. Hey, my speaker means it's not giving the tools,
The help.
the help. But he can, but if he pushes himself, does Shuva, and nothing will stop from Shuva. So a person could, by the challenge of Avodah Zarah, he could say, listen, I'm only doing it now because I have no choice. That guy's forcing me. But I'll do it afterwards, and I'll do Shuva. His Shuva will be accepted. And nevertheless, the person doesn't say that. He says, I'd rather give up my life though. Forget about it. I'm not going to do it. And we're thinking the last is Shuva, I know I can push and I can do Shuva afterwards. Why? Inside of us there's Hashem. That has both time and space, so it doesn't matter if it's only for one moment. It's nothing to do with time. It's timeless. And it rules over him. So when a person realizes that, then every affair is the same thing. Now, it happens to be. Say it over here. No. The question is, every day we say, "Slach lanu avinu ki chatanu," and we ask Hashem for forgiveness, and then we do tshuva. Hashivenu Hashem, we ask for tshuva. Then 2 hours later, so there's only 15 minutes later, we do Marav, and again, Slach lanu avinu. We only had 15 minutes to do Averis. Now, why is not that a bracha l'matala? We just finished davening mincha. Now we're about to daven Marav. What chance did you have to do Averis that you now can make a bracha with Hashem's name, Baruch Atah Hashem, Chan Ramah B'Sloyer, and then Hashivenu again. And now Klal, every day in the base of English, there was the Kamish of Safin, Kamish of one was Mechaba for the Averis at night, and one was Mechaba for the Averis in the day. Now why isn't that Echtav Ashuv? If a person knows that he's going to keep on doing Averis, like I got to do Mincha now, and then the Slach Lanu, and then no way, whatever happens in between, I have another one later on I can do again Slach Lanu. Because that's, when a person does Averis and falls into Averis, that's not he's doing it because he's relying on the true afterwards. But as a human being, we're not holding at the level we could succumb, and we have this process of tshuva. A person says, I'm only going to do the Averis because I know I can do the tshuva afterwards. I'm doing and I know I'm going to get stronger after doing the tshuva. Then that tshuva is a tool for him doing the Avera, then they don't help him in Shemayim. They don't help him, but he pushes, it works anyway. So, and say a little bit of a Say Tov. This is even more important. A person should be Mizgaba Kari, that Shulchan starts off and says you have to wake up like a lion. Actually, not the Shulchan, the Torah says it. The Yetzer makes a heaviness, as we mentioned. Naturally, we are like gravity, we're being pulled down. When a human being is created, Bas V'Dam, Kutzei Chaymer, he's naturally going to go down to the ground. He has a pull towards Gashmias, towards Taiva, to the Olam Hazeh. He has to overcome that, to release himself from that shtus. And that requires gvura. That heaviness puts on many of us a mapel of atzola, something we are very, very familiar with laziness. Not that we want to be rebelling or anything, or tired, just lazy. It's raining outside, it's snowing outside. The office of Bahamas, as we mentioned at the beginning of Tanya, the neshama, everything has 4 parts. The world connected Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. Physically, spiritually, Eish Ruach Mayim offer. Everything has a little bit of Eish Ruach Mayim and offer. And the offer, the dirt, the lowest part, that's the part that pulls down. That's the Eish goes up, the Ruach, the Mayim and Ruach could float in the air. But the offer was pulls us down. The offer part of the neshama always pulls us down. And then in the next few parts, we learn how to deal with that, how to overcome the laziness. That holds us down from doing any mitzvah which requires effort. Come on, guy. We can give examples in 3 areas. The 3 areas are in Torah, Avodah, and Gemilas Chasadim. First, Lama B'Torah B'Iyin. To learn B'Iyin. Not only a daf yomi and be yotze with that, sometimes to put one's mind in to try to understand what's going on over here. To work up your mind a little bit in learning. With Tanya. And then B'Peh, David Divitor, Lord Posik put Megissa. Person could continue learning. Could always learn with his mouth. The dibat the bump with Vam B'Cherem. Kamama was saying, "Lo yimasim atzmai adam atzmai al divei Torah kishol ol kacham alamasei." Chamor alamasei. The person has to be like Yisachar, Chamor Goram. Yisachar is the shevet that represents learning. He has to be like a donkey. A donkey carries weight. A donkey carries burdens. We have to be ready to learn Torah even if it's a burden, when it's difficult. Oh, I got to do this stuff. I'm so tired and sleepy and this and that. That's where you need these reasons to do that, and we'll learn how to get that reasons in the next program. But that's essential for Avodas Hashem, for the Torah part. And similarly, Tefillah. Tefillah was also very lazy. Tefillah b'kavana, b'chol koich mamish. You should be plotting when you get the davening. Each word, each thing is unbelievable. I'm start focusing now on Al Kein Nekavlecha. This guy, this part of Tefillah is very sad. Really, Rachmanus on him. I mean, Aleinu, at least that part, Hashem, is at the end of the city. Most people are halfway out of shul. They're taking off their tefillin, they're running, they're looking at their phone already. They're 1 foot out. And Hashem Rachmanus, this Aleinu it gets chopped up every davening. And once a year, Hashem gives it prime time. Middle of Yom Kippur, middle of the Musaf, bang, they know, Aleinu. What's it doing in the middle of my Musaf? Give it a little chashivas. But there's another part of Aleinu that doesn't even get that chashivas. I'm just thinking about it as I'm saying this now. The Al Kein Nekavlecha, the second part. The second part, I think, should be the biggest emphasis now in this generation. Al Kein Nekavlecha. What does that second paragraph talk about? The Chavetz Chaim was asked, "Where's Mashiach? What happened?" We had World War I in this time. That was like Chavetz Gog and Magog. World War II on the horizon. Where is he? Why is he not here? And the Gedolim since have been asking that same question. Ad Masai. Where is he? And Dorish Ein Lo. The answer, Chavetz Chaim, is very simple. You have to be Dorish, and you have to want him to come. You have to be Makabim. This is a section. This is a whole lecture in itself. Why would we want Mashiach to come? Who wants Mashiach to come? It says in Pirkei Avos, we just learned it, the Yaf Shachar Tshuv Ma'asim Tov Mazeh Mikol Chai Olam Haba. 1 hour in this world is greater than the whole. I can take the whole Olam Haba. It doesn't come close to 1 hour in Olam Hazeh that you could do mitzvahs. We know the Vilna Gaon before he left this world, he grabbed onto his sisters and cried. He said, I'm going to miss you. I won't have the mitzvahs anymore when I go to Gan Eden. And of course, you know Rav Shlomo Kabach's story with Yasala. There's no envelopes in heaven. You know that, right? There's no envelopes in Shemayim to give you envelopes for tzedakah. Can't do mitzvahs in Shemayim. So when Mashiach comes, we no longer have the challenges. It's a lost opportunity. Olam Hazeh is where we have the opportunity. Why would we want Mashiach? So the answer is a very good question. But the answer is really, we don't want Mashiach. We want Mashiach for Hashem, not for us. For Hashem's covenant. For Kvod Shemayim. But how we make that important to us? The Al Kein Nekavlecha describes, if you close your eyes and you read these words, they're mamish unbelievable. They describe, and you have to use imagination. To be an Oved Hashem, you have to have a good imagination. As far as bring down the Svei Musa. You have to use the Koich HaDimyon in the Neshama. Hashem gives different powers in it. The imagination part is essential to be a Yerushalayim. You have to be able to imagine what's going to happen the minute the guy's going to announce on the radio, not Mashiach, remember in California by COVID, I see these guys Mashiach, he didn't know how to pronounce it. Mashiach, they have a song, a flag saying,
Yeah.
Mashiach is here. Okay, you got to announce that Mashiach is here. Just think about what's going to happen to the whole world. The mouths are going to drop. The gilui of the emes is going to be open like Ani Yosef, Ada Vichai. The whole will be stunned and be shocked to recognize the covenant, the Kvod Shemayim that Hashem will get at that moment, is why we should want Mashiach to come. Why that should be override every personal thing that we have. That should be the main goal, and that pushes our L'chol Yom L'shos Gevinu Kol Hayom by thinking about that. And that paragraph at the end of the Tefillah, which is for the end of the Golus, really describes how the whole world will then bow down to Hashem and recognize Him and call on His name. It's an unbelievable words that we don't never pay attention to, and that builds up the chesed. So that's the tefillah b'kavana. Have kavanah. That laziness doesn't let us do it, and hurriedness with different things, different challenges. We can learn the next few programs. What's hold us back from having kavanah? That's the second thing. Torah, we learned that we need energy to do Torah. We need energy to daven properly. And similarly with Gemilas Chasadim, money. The Nevish Bahamas, Amalek brought Krius. Amalek cooled us down. We were all excited and enthused, and Amalek came to Ashakarcha Bader. Ashakarcha made us cooled us down, and which is a terrible thing. A person can be aroused by something. One should never hold. If a person is excited about something, never diminish that flavor. I remember Rav Nissen told me, living in America. America is a place of coldness. It brings krivis to a person. That's what we need to Rashbi, bring chamimas to bring. That's the whole end of Torah's Rashbi, Torah's Arizal, Torah's Chasidus, Torah's Kabbalah, Torah's Rashbi, all bringing in the chamimas, the warmth. Not to want. And similarly with money matters, a person gets cooled off. I should give all my money away, and then I need it for myself. And a person has to overcome that. Lamed negdar lichvashay, all that karv miyod, all these things, to overcome these things, these obstacles in learning with Ian, or davening with kavanah, or doing your tzedakah with an open heart, are very easy. How? By thinking, it's easier to deal with this. I'll push myself and have kavanah and davening. It's a lot easier than being burnt at the stake. It's a lot harder to be burnt at the stake than davening with kavanah. And there, and for burning at the stake, I would do with a hav and ratzah, and I would run there and the simcha. Not to separate from Hashem even one moment. Certainly, to cleave to Hashem, one should tap into these kindness. I think, let me see where I can stop here. So a person focuses on this, he removes the Hester, he removes the Helam, he removes the Ruach Shtus. When he just thinks about this for a moment, it immediately dispels, he just took out the ear of the Yetzer Hara. Just at that minute. He no longer has the cheshek. Okay, I'm going to give my extra money, let me daven this thing with kavanah a little bit, let me get something in for my Shemona Esrei. And we'll see later on when he talks about Shemona Esrei too. Even though naturally a person, it's very hard to always be an Oved Hashem every moment. You grab whatever you can. The Gemara says this whole world is like a smorgasbord of a wedding. Chatoy fa'achol, just grab whatever you can. Grab a little bite here, grab a drink here. We have to grab whatever we can. We had daven Shemona Esrei, and we ended up in Tokyo and here, and there's 10 different things in our mind. Even just grab one bracha. Okay, at least I have one bracha. It's also good, something. That's the way to do it. You can't wait till I'm be perfect after Yom Kippur. For the next year, I'm going to daven every bracha will come on. Forget about it. It's never going to happen. It will happen one day, but if you only do a little at a time. One at a time, then it's another story. So too over here, by remembering these things, remove the hest upon him immediately. And we take out the fact, because the person wants to be bottled to Hashem. And by recognizes the Hava, l'soyti and the nafshe l'kis v'chiyunas l'v'shem kulam yichodes b'daz l'yichud avaz ha'elyon v'yisrael baruch hu kanes k'liel. You reunite, you reconnect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who's your whole, you give up your whole life for that. Yichud zeh l'malo nitzchi lo l'vad ku yisbach shmoy l'malo mi'azman gili v'tzanis v'deburish v'torah nitzchi. When we connect to Hashem with a mitzvah, it's forever. It lasts forever. You know, the mitzvah lasts for 1 minute. You connect it in a way that will always be. That connection never ceases. Even though you move on to another moment and you have different things, different challenges, it doesn't take away from that special thing. For every moment, every bracha, every tefillah you make, that's good. That means lo'olam v'ad. They remain forever. It doesn't leave. Only down here in the upper worlds, if you do an action, it's forever. That kedusha is forever. But down here in our world, we're down within the hagbal of time. That's when we feel it. We're separating from that connection. But the action that we did, that still remains connected. We disconnect. For example, if a person leaves from his learning and it's just to waste time or other things, he becomes separated. When he returns back and reconnects afterwards, the Torah and Tefillah, and asks mechila for the fact that he stepped away for a moment, even though he didn't do an avera. Because we know that that's an Avera too. We had a moment that you can learn and you don't learn. It's also, we have responsible for that. And Hashem will forgive him. Hashem Yisrael. Kamamar Rabbi Senazal, as Chazal tell us, Oval Mitzvah Say V'Shav, Le'izaz Misham Ad Shemech L'Lai. If a person is over a Mitzvah Say, and he does Shuvah, he doesn't have to wait for Yisurin, for the washing machine, he doesn't wait for Yom Kippur, and instantly it gets rectified. Well, is that? Oh, here's what
although they do say it's Telegram odd. What does that mean?
What's that?
The Jew is Telegram, the Kapara is Telegram and Yom Kippur. It's different.
It's a different event, not for Mitzvah Say. There's Mitzvah Say, Mitzvah Loisa Say, there's Mitzvah Shemem Kores. Each one, the Mishnah talks about different levels of Averas. Bittul says the easiest one, there you don't have to wait for anything. Loisa says you have Yisurin. Then there's other certain Kores, you have to wait for Yom Kippur, and there's Kol Hashem, Misa. There's different levels of Averas which require the tikkun of different levels. Tshuva Me'ahava, however, on the other hand, bypasses all that. There's a higher level of Tshuva because it becomes a mitzvah, then you don't have any Avera anymore to fix. So if you do Tshuva to such a level where you have Tshuva Me'ahava, then the various Nasik Zachiyos, you don't have what to repair. There's nothing to repair out of it. You want to. That's why on Yom Kippur not Yom Kippur. Yeah, on Yom Kippur. I'm sure we don't do that. Kippur we sing Ashanu Bagana. Because some sort of asked, how can we sing this nice tune? Ashanu, I sinned with Hashem. Ashanu, Baganu, I rebelled against Hashem. Gazalnu, I stole. And you're very excited. It's such a nice tune, and everyone sings together. Because since you do Tshuva Me'ahava on Yom Kippur, everyone does a complete Tshuva. You're now counting the mitzvahs. Because the distance that the Avera pulled you to makes you, the thirst, being in the desert, makes you wanting that water even greater and then come back.
What does Tshuva Me'ahava look like?
We'll get to that. There's Ageras Tshuva. That's Adi Baal Tshuva. We'll explain to you. You're not the same person. You're a different person. You're totally disconnected from that. And you utilize it to be a springboard, to be stronger. And when you sort of mystic of the world, and you leave that behind to join the Torah world, then that whole experience you had in the desert, in the midbar, that is part of your avodas Hashem now. That's a step towards that. But anyway, it's not echte v'ashuv, because echte v'ashuv only applies. I mentioned this earlier. Anybody has it over here. He's relying on the true afterwards. He's doing Aver because he knows, I'm going to do Aver now, because in 10 minutes later I'm going to do Tshuva. And that night, or Yom Kippur, I'm going to ask for Tshuva. Therefore he sins. If he didn't think about it, he wouldn't sin. If he didn't think about it, he could rely on the Tshuva, he wouldn't sin. But nevertheless, he could still do Tshuva. And that's how strong and deep the connection we have with Hashem. And I just want to finish the parak. And with that we understand the question. When we're going into Eretz Yisrael, the generation that went to Eretz Yisrael, Moshe Rabbeinu didn't go with them. He gave them instructions. Well, what did he tell them to do? Liquid kriya shema pamayim b'chol yom, the kabbalah of malch shemaim b'mesiras nefesh. T'mois nefesh, and thought, not in action, but to be mekabel himself, ready to give up his life on mesiras nefesh. Because Hashem with kriya shema. What do we have? Why do they need this for? So they got a promise already. That generation that went to Eretz Yisrael, they got a promise. Pachtachem ha'avachim yiten Hashem. That they're going to be afraid of them. They don't have to worry about anything. What in the world do they need mesiras nefesh for? They're going to Eretz Yisrael with a promise like that. So it wasn't for that. It was Mishum Shekim. The Torah Mitzvah said, "Tlui b'zeh sheyizkor tamid in mesiras nefesh shchudai." It's not that they needed it because they'll be challenged with Avodah and all these things. They needed it that the very kiyum of the Torah mitzvahs, you need to remember always that you have that inside of you. That mesiras nefesh is embedded inside of you. That adrenaline is hitting inside there. You need to remember it twice a day. Remind yourself, I have that inside of me to give up my life. I'll Kiddush Hashem. So therefore, anything that happens during the day in between, listen. I wasn't going to cut myself off then, even for a moment. Why might I do this to cut myself off? That's necessary. Because this is the key. That's why Hashem gave us the Yetzirah. Hashem gave us the Yetzirah, created it, put it inside of us, made it 13 years older than the original kiss, but He gave us the Yetzirah. That Hashem tells us, this system I put inside of you, this Av inside of you, that will be the tool you could use anytime you want. Easy. Not easy, but close. So this finishes the easy way. The next 10 chapters are going to be on the topic of Simcha. But what Simcha, when you do something with Simcha, you're not lazy. Yeah, Simcha. The Simcha, if a person likes something, wants something, he'll do anything that brings him Simcha. He'll be awake, he won't be lazy, he'll be excited, he'll do it with the fullest lavas. And yet, when we analyze Avodas Hashem, very often it's becomes rote. Every day, I got to do mincha again, I got to do this, I got to do Shvir Simon. And we want the excitement that comes from the Simcha. So the Baal Tanya is going to analyze very practically the next few prakim, thinking about each thing. What causes us not to have this Simcha, this excitement, this enthusiasm, that automatically would make it easy. What's holding us down, and how do we deal with them? Our headaches, with panasa, with family, with laziness, with sadness, with yisurin, with suffering, and how not to let that take away from our Simcha. Everyone should have a wonderful Shabbos and bring in the prayer of the week. Hashem, Lag Boimer, will be away, but will bring the scarf to Chosh Baruch through the Torah Svash Be Zorcha to Gula B'Mehera.
Amen.